All right, everybody. Well, if you think you have heard all you can hear about the Mike Postle scandal, you definitely cannot. There is always more to be had, more to be heard from. And we are with my man, Jeff Boski, who is deeply ingrained in what is about to come up here. He's part of the lawsuit. We've got some hands that he played with Mike, and he, in fact, is going to be donating half of his settlement. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But Jeff, you've been on the show before. I think most of my listeners should already know lots about you and know who you are. But let's talk a little bit about this. This action happened at Stones Live, obviously, right? So what's your familiarity with Stones Live? Are you going out to play cash games out there on the reg?
About 2 years ago, Stones contacted me and like 8 other poker vloggers to have a vlogger meetup game on the live stream. Andrew Nemi, Brad Owen, everybody joined. It's a great time. You know, they paid for our food, our hotel, flight. So, you know, it was a win-win for them and us. So nothing but good things to say about Stones. Justin has been very accommodating to me over the years. Very nice guy, seemingly. And the last time I went was 4 months ago. They had a tournament series going on. I said I wanted to, you know, play the tournament for their main event and possibly do some commentary, because, you know, I might want to get into commentary at some point, a little practice. And they said, yeah, sure, no problem. And looking back, I even looked at the messages that Justin Creatus, aka JFK, sent me just to see if there's anything malicious about it, anything that might be fishy. And I just really didn't see anything. It wasn't like predatory, like, oh, you got to come play with Mike Postle, you know, easy money, or, you know, true, the game was very juicy, other than like Mike Postle and Chris Moneymaker. The rest of the players were very recreational. So I was happy to be invited to such a game, but in the end, yeah, some other stuff happened.
Well, we'll get a little bit deeper into, you know, some of the hands specifically. And we've talked actually on the show last week about some of the hands that have, you know, gone on that people are just totally shocked to see go down the way that they've gone down, or decisions and calls. But you mentioned, so you were just recently on a local Las Vegas news program, and you mentioned on the program there that some locals, before you had started the game, had mentioned to you like, hey, stay away from this Mike guy because he's like a god.
Yeah, it was, I've never experienced something like this before. I was just playing 1-3 at the Stones Casino before the 2-5-10 big game live stream was about to start with Moneymaker and Postle. And I never even heard of this guy, Mike Postle, you know, whatever. But it was just very strange how all the locals at the table, when JFK came over to say, okay, you're in the live stream game, good luck, see you in an hour or whatever, buy-in's 1,000, buy up to the table maximum. And like every local at the table just looked at me and said, oh, you're playing with Mike Postle? Stay away, bro. He's the best bluffer ever. You don't want to mess with Postle. And I've never really heard this in all my years of playing, especially from a person I never heard of. Like the closest similarity I could see was like I get to a final table of a live tournament and someone says, oh, this is Weedman 420 online. And you're like, oh, okay, I played with Weedman. But for them to say, oh, this is Mike Postle, he's a god. It just really took me back. I was like, huh? You know, I'm not scared of this guy, but, you know, thanks for the information. Even Jamin Burton pulled me aside and said, you know, he's the best. You know, you better watch out for Postle. He's got great reads, or whatever he said. Just a warning.
You're like, where did this guy come from then? Because I've been playing poker for a long time, and it's kind of weird that I never heard before.
Yeah, never heard of him. I'm like, what does he want? What does he do? And I figured he's just like their local hero, you know, the best player at Stones or whatever. He's the crusher. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
So you get this little speech beforehand, watch out for him, but there was no sense, you never got any sense, or no one ever said anything like, yeah, it might be a little sketchy or weird, like how good he's doing. It was more just like, oh, he's like Phil Ivey, or what, he's the Phil Ivey of the Stones card room.
Yeah, there was never any specific mention of cheating, or else I would have just really been on the lookout for that, or just been very weary of even playing with him in the first place, or questioned the production crew or something. I would have looked into it. But yeah, no mention of that. Just, you know, he's the best. Good luck. And I remember even some of the locals said, I said, what makes him so good? And they just said, he's just really lucky. And I was like, well, you can't just be continuously lucky. You know, like, what?
That doesn't make statistical sense.
Yeah. And so the first session was half PLO, half no limit, which is just a great game. I think it was 2-5-10 with the blinds, with a straddle. And big hand came up. I don't know if you want to talk about it or bring it up or.
Yeah. So I'll share the screen so you can kind of see where we are.
You got the clip at 3 minutes or 3 hours and 2 minutes?
I think I have it at 3 and 4. I'll go back.
Oh, 3:04. That's it. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And I'm going to do it without sound so you can kind of walk us through. Don't put on the sound. And here we go. Oh yeah, I love it when they're talking that too. Mike Matusow, so much experience. He's so good.
Yeah, it's kind of eerie, some of the things they say, taken into context with what we know now.
Yes. All right. Can you see what's happening?
Yep. So 2-5-10. He pots it to $40 with the beautiful hand, suited aces, a couple loose calls from the locals. And I got the queen, jack 10 in the big blind. Could 3-bet here, but I think it just plays better. They're not going to fold pre. So we're hoping for a good flop. Of course, we flop as good as you can really hope for. Second set with the nut straight draw and backdoor flush draw. So we check it. And my plan with this information against Postle was just to let him bluff, just to set the trap. Everybody says super aggressive. So obviously check to him. He bets a pretty normal amount, and the other players fold. So it's back to me. It just depends on if I want to check raise here, try to set up close to a pot size shove on the turn, or check call and do like a pot size check raise on the turn, as long as like a jack or a 10 doesn't come out. So I just call. We turn our backdoor heart draw, which is great. Check it over to him, and he takes a look at my stack, and I think he eventually bets relatively small for the pot size, around $200, which is half pot. I read this as kind of weakness, possibly a hand like ace-5, ace-3, maybe even a set of threes, set of fives, or a wrap type hand, Broadway wrap. So I want to deny equity and just get it in now. I don't think he ever has deuce-4, rarely ever, and I'm just afraid of aces. But at this moment, I like heard the local saying, "Don't play a big pot with Postle." I'm like, that's why it takes me like a minute to figure this out. I'm like, really? How can I fold this? You know, I'm definitely not folding. It's just a matter of if I'm calling and then evaluating rivers, or just trying to get it in now. But I got $1,500 behind me. So I figure I just want to, you know, Joe Ingram reviewed this hand on his channel when he was doing the full live stream, and he thought it was close between just a call and a repot commit. So I think either plays fine. And
you're actually playing poker, so it makes sense that you're thinking right now and working it out.
I don't know what he has. I really don't. So I'm really, and $1,500, I'm a nit. That's a lot of money. So I got to really think this out. And I say those magic 3 letters, pot. And if you might have to pause it here when the camera goes over to Mike, and the look on his face isn't really a man that has top set, because he should only be afraid I have deuce-4, and that's not really likely. So when the camera goes back over to Mike and he like says, "Oh, how much is it? How much more is it?" Just gauge, like, look at the look on his face. Does he look happy?
Dude, he looks like this is a crying call. Like he doesn't even know what to do. Oh, the struggle, dude. The struggles are killing him.
And then coming up real quick, he looks off, like right now, just right there. He like looked off into the distance for like alleged confirmation. If someone else was there, I don't know. Really grasping at straws here, but there's like no reason for him to look over there because I'm not over there.
Right.
Or he's just, and we get it in and decide to run it twice, whatever. And as Joey brought up, he's just not a good PLO player. So maybe that just has something to do with it. And there's more I can say about him and PLO in a little bit. And he scoops me, and I reload.
And then you're like, Those mother effers
They
told
warned
me
me.
about this guy. They told me, okay, so let's, like, before we get too much then into other hands, let's talk a little bit about, so in a situation like this, in a spot like this, what's interesting to me about too, what you're looking at this point is like, okay, so we can look at the numbers and the, you know, statistical unlikelihood of him, you know, winning 97% of the time on the river or whatever it is, but that actually there are, as people have deep dive into this more and more, that there's a lot of body language and a lot of things that aren't really adding up or making sense in terms of what he's doing and where he may or may not be getting his information from.
Yeah, the crotch staring is the most damning. The fake hole card check to look at his phone in his lap, allegedly, just time and time again. And a lot of times you'll be like, oh, I didn't see him look at his crotch this hand. Well, the camera isn't always on him. The camera's on the action, wherever the action is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's damning. And if he does, in fact, have the bone conductor headphones or headset, you know, fitted into his Under Armour cap, he always, you know, he'll go like this when he has like a decision, like, oh man, oh, or leans on it. And that's proven to show that you can hear better the bone conductor headset technology through your skull. So that would make a lot of sense, combined with the unnatural puffiness of his special Under Armour hat. You know, a lot of coincidences.
It's so interesting. Well, what I wanted to ask you then, when we're looking at this hand, and you can tell me where to move forward for other hands, but one of the things we talked about, I had Brad Wilson, I want to say, on the podcast yesterday. And one of the things that he had talked about was that, of course, there's this, you know, fiduciary element of being cheated that hurts. Okay. Like just one hand right there, you lost $1,500 and that sucks. But that there's also a psychological element of that before people were talking about this or before people knew what was happening, A, it sucks to feel like you got cheated, but B, that you go home at the end of a night, at the end of a session and just say, the fuck with this Mike Postle guy? Like, I am a terrible poker player and he just totally crushed my soul. Like, did you get the sense at the end of this session, or what was your psychological experience at the end of playing with somebody that apparently plays like God?
That's a great question. What happened? I reloaded for 1,000 and I won a couple of big pots right away from some other locals to put me back at the profit. And I think I broke even on the session, but I lost around 2,000 to Mike Postle because he like bluffed me off aces in his other PLO hand, which wasn't super interesting, but it was something kind of suspicious depending on how you want to look at the hand and whether you'd bet it like that. But I definitely get what you say, how it can just wreck your whole psyche when, just like the super user scandals back in the day, Mike Matusow said he was never the same player, because you just always have it in the back of your mind, am I getting cheated in this situation? The thing I feel worst about is just the locals that might not have, you know, thousands of dollars to just spend on gambling, and they lose it to somebody that they shouldn't be losing it to. And the way they lose it, and he has duper's delight, and he can't stop laughing as he's owning them on the river and slamming the cards down on the table, making a big spectacle out of it as he just takes all your money, and you're like, what the hell just happened? How did he read me so well? What did I do? So hopefully the lawsuit does some good things for the people that were affected.
So I definitely want to get into that because I do think, and in fact, I haven't read the lawsuit yet. I need to. It's been, Mama has to move. Mama's making a baby. Many things have gone on this week. And of course, it's like one of the craziest weeks in actual poker news. But I want to know more about the lawsuit. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about, so when the rumors sort of initially started circulating, right, as Twitter very first starts, and I want to say, was it Angry Pollock? I feel like I do this every time.
Veronica, Brill.
That she sort of brought this up, which I think the entire poker community owes a huge debt of gratitude to her, because putting yourself out there and accusing someone of anything is dangerous, but especially when it's, I think a lot of people are employed by Stones. A lot of people commentate on Stones. I think it's a stream that a lot of people are involved in and connected to. And so I think I could understand that there might've been hesitation in wanting to create this big drama. But when you started hearing things, what was your initial reaction? Did you right away get on board and like, oh yeah, now this shit makes sense? What was it like for you when it first started?
Not immediately. I wanted to look over all the hands I played because all the live streams are still on Stone's Live Poker on YouTube. So I just went over the 2 4-hour streams I played with Mike Postle and just tried to figure out if anything fishy went on. And in one of the streams, it's definitely pretty clear that he was playing above the rim and he just never really made a bad decision and just crushed. The PLO half no limit stream was a little different story. So you might be able to see a difference in his decision making in those 2 streams.
Wow. Okay. So you heard the rumors, went back, looked at the evidence, and immediately saw, okay, this doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, the worst thing you could ever call a poker player is a cheat. So I didn't want to take that lightly. So I wanted to get, some evidence or proof or just a lot of hands to put together a greater picture. Just one hand is a piece of the puzzle. 100 hands puts the puzzle together. So so I just tuned into every Joe Ingram live stream and just watched along and followed the 2+2 thread and did as much research as I could, and just saw how unlikely it all seemed to be.
So you had sort of a similar reaction. I remember seeing on Chris Moneymaker's Twitter, who we see was at the table with you this one particular night, and he said, I don't want to make a judgment call until we know for sure. I'd like to see a little more information. And I think as more information has come out, it's become infinitely more clear or more likely. So the natural progression and evolution, I think, was, if I remember correctly, that Stones more or less initially just wanted to shut it down and said, like, we've already looked into this. It's not a thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they did. I think they did another investigation. Just, nothing to see here. Like, yeah, okay. What happened? No details. Okay, you said everything's good.
Right. And I think as we all, and this is something I spoke with my guest about yesterday also, the poker community is incredibly sharp and their job is more or less to be super detail oriented people. So things don't get by. And I think, as we've seen in the last 2 weeks, a lot has come to light. Now, this lawsuit is something that I, for one, am really surprised and really excited to see, just to showcase that there are some ways, I think, to come together and use the legal system, hopefully to support the people who aren't cheating. But talk to me a little bit about your involvement in the lawsuit and on what grounds, you guys are able to even do this at this point.
I was surprised at the speed of it all. Veronica, Andrew Polak tweeted out, hey, if you guys want to be involved in the lawsuit, class action lawsuit, contact Mark Verstandig on Twitter, and you can, if you played with Postle, you can be in it. So I contacted them. They were quick and sent me all the documents. I signed them, and now it's like 36 pages, which the Channel 13 local news reporter had, fully highlighted all the key points when he interviewed me last night. It's pretty crazy, but, I'm glad to see the poker community has come together to, address the issue and hopefully prevent it in the future. The numbers are $10 million to $30 million class action lawsuit. That might seem like a lot of money, but I don't know anything about how the law works and lawsuits and stuff, but apparently there's no chance we'll really ever get that much. But it just comes to negotiations and stuff like that. But I just like to see the victims, compensated for their pain, suffering, loss, emotional distress, and devastation at the hands of Mike Postle. I went ahead and tweeted out immediately because I never thought I'd get more than like the $2,000 that I lost to Mike Postle. So it's not a big deal. So I just said, I'll give 50% to Angry Polak, Veronica, whatever I win, and 50% to Adopt a Boxer Rescue. So hopefully more people will do the same. I think that's the best organization if you want to give money to, just based upon them not having administrative fees or CEOs and just putting it all towards the dogs, stopping the Amish puppy mill problem in Pennsylvania. That just really hits home with me because I adopted 2 boxers and I know what great dogs they are.
Well, and I know that the poker community, or at least I tend to think that the poker community is a dog loving and a charity loving community. So for sure, before you and I get separated, or DM me on Twitter or whatever, send me a link, and in the article description for the podcast, we'll put a link if people want to contribute to Adopt a Boxer also.
Great. Yeah, they got a Twitter page, a website. It's a nonprofit charity, 501c3 or whatever. So I think it's tax deductible too. But yeah, it's just any dog rescue organization is just the worst business model you can ever imagine. It will cost them around $1,000 on average to rescue a dog from a kill shelter or the streets or an Amish puppy mill, and then it usually it costs $1,000 in vet bills just to make sure they're up to good health before they adopt them out for $300 or $400. So they're losing like $600 on every dog they save. So they really depend on donations just to keep the business running, and volunteers. No one's getting paid.
I'm with you a million zillion percent. And when I very first started going to church, and they were like, oh, you need to tithe 10% of your income, I was like, oh, this is like got to be a scam because the church just wants my money. But then the pastor was like, girl, you give that money to whatever you want, just make sure you're giving back. And Snap was like, okay, local dog shelters, where can we give 10% of our income? And there are a ton of really, really, I think, amazing causes and charities out there for animals. And in fact, I think Jennifer Harmon too is connected to a charity in Vegas that works with dog shelters. I think it's close to all of our hearts.
Yeah, dogs are great. They're always happy to see you.
So let's talk a little bit about then, though. And I can imagine as everyone has to go home and get their Mike Postle losses off their shoulders, they can cuddle up with their babies. But let's talk a little bit about your thoughts on, have you seen the Mike Matusow interview with Mike Postle?
Yeah, I listened to all of it. It was pretty sad, the softballs he threw him, and just no hard-hitting questions, and just how Mike Postle, his demeanor was that of first kind of humble, but as the second interview went on, he just became more arrogant, saying things such as, I'd never wanted the spotlight. How can you not want the spotlight when you're the star of the show? They got 10 different memes they flash on showing you as Jesus or the devil, or they call you the apostle, like you're a mythical, religious god. And just the way he acts at the table. And then he has the breakthrough when he's talking to Mike, when he says, I'm not afraid to admit anymore, I am one of the best poker players in the world.
Yes.
What? Okay. Whew. Glad we got that out of the way.
Good thing we got that covered. I know it's hard. It's hard to admit that.
Yeah. Thanks for coming clean.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's amazing. And I obviously as an interviewer, I can understand frequently, I shouldn't say frequently, a lot of times when you get interviews that other people are trying to get, they will say, don't ask me this, I don't want to answer this, or I can understand, it may or may not have been a really tough spot for Mike, but either way, Mike Postle still didn't, I think, come off particularly well, even with softball questions. Yeah.
He also claimed that he was the biggest winner in ultimate bet history, which says a lot, because I believe Prahlad Freeman won $7 million. With or without the super using scandal there. So,
I was gonna say, but also, really, do you want to tie your name to another giant scandal while we're at it? Maybe it's we should just pump the brakes a little bit on just jumping on board with every other. Okay, that's crazy. But I haven't actually seen Veronica. I know she was just on with Joey, was it?
Last night, yeah.
Last night. So I didn't see that. Did you see that? And if so, am I missing anything? Bring me up to speed. What's the latest?
Yeah, I saw the first half of it. She just goes on about how her concerns were initially, because she was in the booth so much, seeing him win so much. They showed the famous clip where she's with Justin Kelly, and Postle, I believe, folds the Queen Jack to Marley's Queen 10 on the Jack High board. And Justin Kelly says, wow, what a great fold by Postle. And Veronica just stops and she goes, this doesn't seem right. what's going on here? It doesn't add up. He plays so many hands. Why would he fold here? And you can just see the moment in time. And she even says, I don't get it. I just don't get it. What is this? And Justin Kelly doesn't really address her. He just goes on, hyping up Postle. And that was like the moment, and that made her reach out to other people and say, I just think something's going wrong here. And she talks about her suspicions, also her not wanting him to play in her Veronica and Friends game because she thinks he was cheating and doesn't want him in the game.
It gives me goosebumps when I think, because really when you have those moments where your intuition is signaling you like, this is wrong, something's wrong. And then everyone just says like, nah, it's fine. Keep it going. But that she followed that intuition and trusted that intuition enough even to like put herself out there is just, I have a lot of respect. It's really, really pretty bossy.
Yeah, and she feared the backlash of falsely accusing someone, and she got it from a lot of horrible messages she posted on her Twitter timeline from some girl that was a dealer there that said just horrible things. I mean, I don't even want to bring up like what was said, but I think those tweets are deleted now. But it's a great thing she did, and it's gonna get a lot of people back a lot of money, hopefully.
And so did she mention, because my initial question mark was in the first article that I read, it said that she still had a relationship with Stones Live. And so I thought, well, this is probably going to sour that relationship really regardless of whether she's right or wrong. So has she talked at all about what's happened with Stones or where Stones is standing now, especially in light of the lawsuit?
I think she was kind of getting done, from what I picked up on the Joe Ingram interview, was she was kind of done driving to Stones all the time and doing the commentary. So although she was, I guess, officially employed by them, I guess she's no longer with the company.
So, but this brings up an interesting question, because I think, and this is a question that we in the poker community are dealing with frequently, which is, what responsibility does the either online poker site or live poker or streams or whatever it is, whatever platform it is that you're playing on, what responsibility does the person who's in charge of that game or the company that's in charge of that game have to maintain the security of that game? So what do you think this does for Stones as a brand? And then also, furthermore, what does it do for live streaming cash games as a whole?
Yeah, Veronica brought that up where she said, Joey's asking how likely is it that JFK is involved in this, and she kind of said, he even if he doesn't know, he's still responsible for protecting the players, or it could be likely that he was in on it also. So either way, I believe he's in the lawsuit, or I believe the lawsuit will be seeking out Stones to pay for the damages if Mike doesn't have any money to pay out.
Do you think that it will also be now just really, it's already hard enough to get people to play in live streamed cash games. For most people, it's like, what is the real advantage of playing on a live stream game? You're giving away information, the game moves slower. Like, I can understand why it's already difficult to build out those games. Do you think that the Stones game has any possibility of getting people to play anymore?
Well, I think it'll be tough for it to be the same as it was after its kind of name has been tarnished a bit. But I think some people play on live streams, especially the locals, especially at Stones, where it was their chance to be on TV. Their friends could watch them on Twitch, they could watch them on YouTube, they can rewatch the stream. So they didn't care too much about their strategies being revealed. They just thought it was a cool thing. Like, hey guys, look, I'm going to be on TV. But as far as that's one thing that I kind of covered with the reporter yesterday is how this will affect live stream games in Las Vegas. He wasn't too familiar with like how often live stream games happen, but in reality, the only time they happen is like during the World Series of Poker at a final table. So the general public shouldn't be afraid to be playing poker because RFID cards aren't just going to be slipped into your local 2-5 game, and no one's going to have that information. So this is a very unique situation, and I think it's good that a precedent has been established that we're going to catch people that do wrong and make them pay in the court of law.
So this is something that we're going to talk a little bit, that my podcast co-host and I are going to talk a little bit about after this interview, but for the listeners maybe who are more casual fans or who haven't played a lot with RFID cards, we talked a little bit last week about some of the real ways that the whole thing functions. But could you give your take, I guess, on how it would be possible to use RFID cards to cheat?
There's a few different ways. It just depends on the delay. Matt Berkey would probably be a better person to talk on this subject, but from what I've picked up, there are ways where the system can relay without the delay to a device. And if this is done, there's a very specific blue screen that is not only on the GFX RFID controller that shows all, or the action tracker as they call it. You could also see this replicated on the device that will like slowly show everybody's hole cards as the RFID reader reads them, along with the board cards. There has been some screenshots of a certain person named Mike, whose phone was exposed with this exact alleged blue screen, which, why would your cell phone have it was like the blue screen of death. You ever seen that on like a computer? Very similar, but why would that be on an iPhone? Is that his screensaver? Is that his background? Who knows? But that might be the smoking gun, as they call it. Matt Berkey kind of detailed how this could be a thing a few days ago, and I believe he's going to be on the Joe Ingram podcast today. So I think that's one way. The other way would be if someone was in the back control room and they could radio through some sort of device what everybody has in a more less sophisticated technology. You just say, hey, Sarah's got jacks. She's got a set. You better fold, or whatever,
Yeah.
Information's power, and knowing your opponent's hole cards is the ultimate piece of information.
It's so interesting because, I think with lots of things in like the mainstream news included, the culture that we live in now with all the video that's available and with people having their cell phones and things out all the time, it is much harder to get away with things. And I was even thinking, it's amazing that Stones left all of this video content up on YouTube. And I hope, sweet baby Jesus, that whoever's in charge of this lawsuit has like snap downloaded everything before everything gets deleted.
Yeah.
But that, it's really hard to maintain a lie. It's really hard to hide information that you don't want to get out there, because we live in an age now where it's like, dude, you're on record. Like somebody's recording you all the time. And I think that's been one of the most interesting things about this whole scandal, has just been like watching people go back and figure things out, because you can just figure it out. It exists.
The live stream can be pretty good evidence, if you will, even though a lot of people ask, where is the evidence? Show me the proof. It's like, okay, there's a lot of coincidences, let's just say. Like, you've seen a lot of poker players at the table, right? Most people put their cell phones on the rail, right? Why would you need your cell phone on your lap? What are you hiding?
It's true. It is true. And then when you look at on the table, everybody who does have their phone out, it's like sitting at the dinner table. Like you put it next to you, which is terrible, but that's the world we live in now, guys. Like we know that.
People are addicted to their cell phones.
Yeah.
So you're frequently checking it. Why would it be under the table? I mean, are you cheating on your wife? You're watching some some porn or a special sporting event. What's going on down there? That's a question. And then another thing which hasn't really been proven is you've seen a lot of people play poker too. Usually a cell phone's on the rail. How often do you see someone's car keys, their house keys on the rail? This happened a lot with someone named Mike. And I've never really seen it. And
why? You're right. And it's really weird.
Does it not fit in your pocket? Are you showing off your new car? What is on that keychain? And that's something people are looking into.
Oh, I just love it. See, I'm such a sucker for like Dateline and basically any, murder mystery type thing. But this is exactly why, because there's just evidence. And then I just love watching all these brilliant minds sort of comb through things and figure it all out. Now, in terms of references to things such as Dateline, the legal system, as we know, moves glacially slow. more so in the criminal courts, I think, even than in the civil courts. And this lawsuit will be happening in civil court. Am I right?
I believe both. Well, I'm not 100% sure, but there's three $10 million lawsuits. I think civil, criminal, and punitive. I'm sure I'm messing that up. Damages. I have no idea.
Listen, we're not attorneys, but
yeah,
some stuff. Three things.
Not an attorney. I'm not a cop. I'm not an attorney. Just a poker player that, you know, sometimes smells shady characters.
Yeah. And then I'm assuming it'll be in California. So do you know what the next sort of steps are? Are you guys going to have to do depositions, or you just more or less wait until whatever the super anciently slow system chugs along at a snail's pace?
I mean, I hope I don't have to go travel to California to testify or do anything like that. But, you know, whatever they need, it's understandable just to get the other victims their money back. I'll do it. But yeah, I don't really know how class action lawsuits work. I just know the lawyers get a good chunk of it. Which, you know.
Yeah, good for Mac. Good for my boy Mac. And hopefully good for the boxers.
Right. Yeah, that's should be a nice day for the boxer rescue. So that's what I really care about.
Well, Jeff, I just appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your insights with us. And you, in fact, create your own content. He's got a vlog on the YouTube, which is not for your grandma. We're talking Jeff tells it like it is, no F's given, rated R version of a poker vlog, which I love. Tell the users where they can get at you, where they can find you, and again, where they can get at this boxer rescue if they're not looking at the article.
Okay, my YouTube channel is Jeff Boski, B-O-S-K-I. Over 400 vlogs have been produced in the last 2.5 years. Most of them are what it's like to be a live tournament poker player. Not a tough living. You'll often ask, why do you lose so much, bro? Well, that's just how tournaments work. I do win too. So there's highlights of that. And I also do ratings of different steakhouses around town, strip clubs, massage parlors, rent exotic vehicles, just show a lot of cool stuff you can do in Las Vegas. And you can find me on Twitter at ICURARook, those letters. And of course, check out adoptaboxerrescue.com. Full website shows how you can donate with PayPal, or adopt_a_boxer on Twitter. Check them out. I highly recommend you donate whatever you can to them. It's the best organization I know of.
I love it. All right, team, fam. And don't forget to send me that link so we can put it in the article. And just thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always nice talking to you.